So hello and greetings and welcome to another edition of It Takes Two with myself, Hugh. And this week I'm joined by broadcast journalist and NLP practitioner, Lady Essie. How you doing, Lady Essie?
I'm doing really well. How you doing, Hugh?
I'm good, and I'm glad that you've been able to make the time. I know that you wear many hats, and so you push for time, but I'm kind of privileged that you made some time to drop by. In fact, talking about you wearing many hats, I guess broadcast journalist and NLP practitioner, that kind of only touches on kind of a couple of the hats that you wear. So maybe you want to say a little bit about yourself to the public.
Okay, so one of my hats is being a danceaholic. So I just actually came back from facilitating a dance workshop just today, which was really great. I haven't danced for a little while, but it's nice to do that. I like to tell and collect stories. When I'm not dancing, I like to tell and collect stories, because it's important that people have a voice to share what it is, their backstory, what it is about them. So I do that through poetry and creative non-fiction, because I like to know the why behind somebody. So I like to understand why people do what they do. So this is where I get to interview people as I co-host a radio show, the More Knowledge Show, which is on Wednesday. You have been a lovely guest for us as well on the More Knowledge Show.
What's the name of your show and your station, if you want to mention that?
The More Knowledge Show, Wednesdays from 6 to 9 every Wednesday with DJ Supreme on Conscious Radio. So yeah, that's where we bring issues to the community that we want to talk about and have guests like yourself coming and sharing their knowledge. It's all about knowledge sharing. As you learn, you teach. As you teach, you learn.
Okay, nice.
And that's another thing. And then also business. Also, I kind of the Feeding the Mission job is one where business admin management. So that's where to help people kind of get organised. I like to be organised. And events, I like hosting events. So I also am a host for some community. That's one of them. It's Rebirth of the Grioche, which is a storytelling event. To all bring about, again, using creativity as a tool for health and well-being. And that's about storytelling. Stories are important.
Okay. So I hear you. So there's lots of hats that you wear, but like some people say, "Oh, I'm an empath," but I guess you're how would you describe it?
Renaissance soul. That's what I like to call myself.
A relational soul. Nice.
Renaissance soul.
So you said that you're interested in the what makes people tick or what it is, but I'm interested in what's your interest in this topic.
In this topic, relationships.
No, not just relationships, but in a particular aspect of it. We discussed the topic being losing yourself in the relationship. That's a kind of, that's an aspect of romance that or potential that happens in marriage, committed relationships, long-term relationships. I guess people don't lose themselves if they've been seeing somebody for 2 weeks or something like that. But when people are even married or in like long-term relationships, that is a possibility.
That is, and that's where you get the really interesting stories, because when you lose yourself, relationships are things where people go into relationships and then they may be already, like say you're creative and you've got all your life going on and you meet someone and then you just want to please them, and then you go in and you give so much of yourself, and then one day you wake up and like, oh, well, I don't recognize myself. Same thing happens to parenthood. Some people become this label, I'm a wife or I'm a partner, and they then become their labels, and then they forget who they were outside of the label of being the wife, the husband, mother, father. Just stick to the label.
Okay, so people have their own individual identities, right? Yeah. But sometimes because of marriage or sometimes because of becoming a parent, there's a risk of them losing their identity and just being mum or just being wife, or not seeing themselves outside of the context of the group that they are part of or the relationship they are part of. Do you think that is something that is particularly common? Is that something that you've come across as you give advice and interact with circles of men and women?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about men. It's mainly about women. I like the group that I've spoken to, usually women that I found happen to. It may happen to men, but I can't speak on that. But women in particular, when they end up in a relationship and they were active in activities, they may be dancing or they're writing, and then they say, I don't do it anymore. Why? I don't have the time. Because they're given so much of themselves that they then end up putting their projects to one side. But yeah, I'll go back to it 10 years later. It's still never done. I used to travel a lot, now I don't travel anymore because they got me around. So yeah, it's that whole thing of finding out they're not and if you're a people pleaser, see, there's also that problem is if you have tendencies of people pleasing, you tend to please. I call it the Mother Teresa syndrome. Become the martyr. Just go in and just help everybody else and deaf everybody else, and to the point where you're lost because you don't know. You don't take time up for yourself. So you don't create that time just to do things for yourself because you're so busy giving up yourself to everybody else that your cup is empty. Your cup no longer overflows and then empty.
There's two things I have observed that dynamic, right? And sometimes I wonder if there's two different things going on, like two different separate things going on depending on the individual. I've witnessed or observed like some people who, like you said, the Mother Teresa syndrome. That's a nice term where they want to save everybody and run for every cause. Sometimes every social political cause, and it's about middle classism and working class and the Communist Workers' Party, or it's about women's rights. And I'm not saying whether classism or gender equality ain't relevant issues, but some people pour themselves into that, right? So much. But then, if you know them well, you look at their life, and their life is I'm about to say in and out of order. Their life is so out of order or in so much chaos. I'm like, is this an escape to not maybe have to look at some of the things that you're in, that you're that you need to look at foundationally for yourself? But then there's some people who they pour themselves into relationships because maybe that's just the kind of person they are, and it's fulfilling a different type of need, not necessarily an unhealthy need, but it's just the way that maybe some women are. Like when they fall in love, they fall kind of fall. Yeah,
like literally they do.
What's your
yeah, you literally fall hard, and it's that sometimes it is that addicted to busyness. So if you're so involved in so many different things, you haven't got time to think about what's going on in your life because you're out there doing so many things. Like first that you're mentioning, if you're out for every political cause and you're actually all there, when do you have time to think about yourself? When do you have time to reflect? Because everyone has to have that time to reflect and see what's going on, how my progress is going on. I remember having a conversation with a coach once, and she described it as when you're helping everybody so much, so it's like you're in your own car, and then you see someone else broken down, and you leave your car at the side of the road, and you get into their car, and you drive down the road. What happens to your car? Because now you've left your car abandoned. And you're just driving in someone else's car, then you get into everyone else's car to help them on their journey. But your car's all the way back there. So how do you get back to your car and help your car to keep going? Because now your journey's at a standstill because you're busy helping. And it's great to help everybody else, but you've also got to help yourself and be yourself so you can be greater to other people. But the moment you abandon your car, you're of no use to nobody else because you're not used to yourself. And that's really why people can't get lost because they abandon.
You're cutting out a little bit at the end. Like I can hear you, but I want our viewers to hear these gems what you're dropping on us. So even if you project even more, that's even better.
Okay.
What is it?
Don't leave your car at the side of the road. Don't leave your car at the side of the road and get someone else's car.
Charity begins at home, right? But so what is it about? Let's maybe explore this a little bit about women and men. Yeah, what is it about? Because I believe it's common, that it's more common for women to lose themselves. Yeah, in fact, men, if they even run the risk of maybe missing a football game that they normally attend, or when it's to hang out and watch boxing on Sky or whatever, just because they're going to be with, I can't make it, I'm going to be with so-and-so. It's like, we've got a whole set of bans as men, like for men who go through that, right? So like, it's very rare, and if men, we're kind of policed by the group, if you will, right? There's a kind of punitive thing that we experience if we abandon the masculine circle, right? Yeah, everybody's we're all guys together, but anybody goes off to their wife or to their woman, but like there's a certain like price you pay or loyalty for lack of loyalty, right? But there's also this thing of maybe men are, I don't know, more selfish or something like that, or maybe the expectation, the disappointment that maybe women will experience because men don't pour in the same way. It's almost like it almost reminds me of the love language kind of conversation where women are pouring a lot in, and men are pouring in, but maybe in a different way. So it's because it's not the same. It's sometimes seen as like men can be a little bit selfish because they don't lose themselves as much as women do. What do you think about it?
Was it because, or maybe it's because men maybe have healthier boundaries, or they kind of know what they're giving in, and they know football's my life, so I ain't missing football. Oh, why am I going to give it the football? Not in a bad way, but I guess it's that whole thing of, like you said, it's more police. With a woman, it's not like not when you get into a relationship, a man said, give up what you're doing. No one says that, but it's like, I just want to please you. I just want to do so much for you. I just want to go. And it gets to the point where you don't even realise. I think for some women, they don't even probably realise they've ended up stopping everything like that. Well, with a guys, I guess, the football is what you do. And then you kind of make it, this is what I do. And maybe some women, maybe it's a boundaries thing. Maybe it's not keeping the boundaries when you get to a relationship. It's like, okay, this is my time, this is your time. And sometimes I think it's also society. Like when you become a new wife or you get to a long term, you're supposed to do this. Society tells you you're supposed to be like this. You're supposed to be like this. And so it's the expectation of what you think you're supposed to be, not having a vision for yourself, how you think you and your partner should be. So if you go into a relationship knowing this is how we are going to be and have those conversations, then it becomes easier. But if you don't have that conversation at the beginning, then it's a lot easier than to say, all right, every Saturday I go do my dance, or I go to my gym, or I go do my this. But if you don't have that conversation and you think, look, I know he does his football, but I'll just be at home and wait for him to come back. I'll make his friends my friends. You know, I'll just pour myself into his life rather than going, oh, keep your life and do your thing. You're separate, I'm separate, but we come together as a unit. But you still got to maintain your identity. And I guess that is it's communicating, and I think it's boundaries and expectations. When you first get married, what does it mean to be a wife or a husband? What is the role? What is the expectation? What do you want from your marriage or your long-term relationship? What is it that you look for? Many of us go into relationships without having those thoughts. We kind of know what we want from the partner and what we expect from them, but do we ask ourselves, what do we expect from ourselves? What are we expecting from ourselves? What do we expect our ways to be? And who are we listening to? Are we listening to ourselves and our inner voice? Are we listening to what society says? What the family says? Oh, you're married now, or you're a mother now, you're a long-term partner. You need to be at home. You can't be out all the time. You need to be in your house. You get told those type of things. You can't be traveling all the time.
You say society, where are those messages coming from? Because when you were speaking, I was thinking about, even when it comes to perceptions of men and women and the role of men and women, pretty much like if you were to, I mean, they've done research on this, and if you interview children that are, primary school age, for example, they will be able to sort of identify what roles they think men and women should have, or what they should do, or they might even have a concept of, even maybe slightly older children in primary school, a kind of idea of relationships, of what it means. Like you said, an imagination, a fantasy of what husband and wife mean. We grew up reading storybooks, fairy tales, so that stuff is kind of inculcated kind of early on about the prince saving the princess, and these Disney movies. They're not known. These people think that this is just it's fun and joke, but this is some real it's some real indoctrination. These little Thunder and Shrek and these things we think is fun and jokes, but there's a lot of education going on to those young minds.
I mean, I was having a conversation yesterday, and a woman said that a lot of women are conditioned to go be pleasing to their partners. It's like conditioning. Because if you when you watch a lot of the shows, when you got a group of girls and someone's getting married, sometimes the conversation is, I've been thinking of my wedding day since I was 5.
Come on, now.
Some women, they've been thinking about their wedding day since they were 5. It's like, I've always imagined what it would be like, and you get into the whole fairy tale. I want a princess gown. I want this. So the wedding day becomes the main focus. So they're so worried about the wedding day that they've actually got marriage later. Someone says the wedding day is just the surgery. It's turning up into the surgery. What are you going to do after? But sometimes the wedding and all that goes with it, and all that fairy tale. My prince has now come and sweep me off my feet. It's going to be perfect and amazing, and these expectations of how it should be, and then the reality sets in. Oh, now I've got to be on my own. Even if you don't get married, but it's long-term partner. How am I supposed to be now? Okay, it's not working. Do I need to try harder to please him? Okay, he's going out with his friends. Why is he going out with these people? Let me make him stay at home. What do I do? And you keep trying, but then maybe you're pushing him away more. So the more you're trying, you're not being yourself. So now maybe you were the nice, friendly, happy female. Now you're the chatting, lots of noise, nagging. So now your partner's wanting to leave the house because you're nagging all the time. But you probably don't realise you've become a nag because you've now lost yourself, because that's not your natural self. But you've now become that person that's always nagging, arguing, talking, always complaining. So now your partner's like, too much noise at home, so I'm going to go out, and now want to go out. Maybe he may have decided to stay home, but now it's like, home isn't as happy as I want it to be. And then a cycle continues.
And that's not healthy from the men's side of you, to be frank, is that and oftentimes men can be guilty of this, where when there's an issue at home, I think it's like sometimes it's to do with people's attachment styles in terms of how you were given, your care from your significant carers, your parents or whoever that might have been that grew you up, how people bonded with those significant caregivers. So people have attachment styles that are sometimes anxious, avoidant or whatever. So you know what I mean? Like when it's seen as confrontation, it's supposed to be, or conflict, right? Instead of like there's a resolution, is a kind of, do you know what? If we don't address it, we won't fall out. So my thing is, every time that conversation comes up or that vibe comes up, I'm gonna make like the win and be out of here. And then that cycle continues. She becomes more resentful, cheesed off, or even she becomes more anxious because her attachment style is like she needs a close bond, and like it's causing a fracture. So
even how you argue, because if you're someone who likes to finish an argument. So it might be you're the person that wants to say the last word, but your partner's like you said, I can't take arguments, so I'm going to go. So they step out. But the person that wants to finish the argument now hasn't had time to finish. So the next day, the argument continues because they just want to finish it. Some people hate conflicts completely, so they just want to avoid it. So then you've also got that communication pattern of I'm trying to make it work, but the more I try, the worse I'm doing because I keep pushing. But let me see if I can keep pleasing you. Like you said, then eventually resentment sets in. Because now you're overgiving of yourself and you're feeling like not getting anything back. So now I've given too much of myself. And he's just take, and I'm just giving. Now I'm resenting it.
Nobody wants to feel played, right? Nobody wants to feel played.
No, nobody wants to feel played.
Yeah, nobody wants to feel played. I think
sometimes it can feel like that if, like you said, your boundaries have been pushed. I remember coming up to a book, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Pulling Your Own Strings. This book was like, I remember seeing it was like 50p, one of these like secondhand shops, and I picked it up and I was like, wow. So in that book he talks about how sometimes we allow other people to pull our strings, so much so that that's another element of yourself, because you allow people to walk all over you. You don't speak up for yourself. You want people please, just kind of want to keep things as they are. You don't want the problem, so you allow. So it's not just your partner. It's like how you are at work, how you are in your family, because a lot of people take baggage from their family, and that's how they've always been with their family, their parents, their siblings, and they take that relationship style into their relationship because that's just how they.
No, absolutely.
And that can happen as well. So you're not sure that because sometimes you limit how you are in your first family relationship.
People have patterns, right? And in those patterns that people have, they basically replicate it. So if you are, like you said, whether it's a people pleaser, whether you're an avoidant person, whatever your pattern is, right? You'll find that people replicate that in the work environment, with friends, whatever the case is. That's why I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when you speak to some people, they go, I'm always in these situations, because we kind of like create those situations. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like people are always, why do people think I'm aggressive and I'm just speaking my mind, but people are scared of me or intimidated, right? You don't keep meeting people like that. You're putting something out, or vice versa. Why do people take advantage of me? Maybe because you don't maintain certain boundaries. So we're at risk of repeating a cycle. And I think that sometimes this happens even in relationships where people might even self-sabotage because deep down they don't think they deserve a relationship like that. So if something isn't going wrong, they might have to find something to excoriate create conflict, something to excoriate their other half about, because unconsciously this is going too good and I don't really deserve this and I'm kind of uncomfortable. So, or I'm even fearful. The more well this goes, it's the more I'm feeling attached to this person, and that is scary as hell, right? Because my attachment style is anxious avoidant. So I need to create a situation to put the brakes on, So there's all these kind of dynamics at play.
There's so many dynamics that sometimes you don't realize until you start working on yourself, and then you have to. And then also another thing as well, like when talking to my girls sometimes, is we find out that we're dating the same person with a different name. So that's another pattern. That you end up dating the same person, but it's just a different face, different name. Like, oh, my ex used to do that.
Do you mean as in like when the ladies are speaking and they mention an ex or they mention something? And a guy like that. Do you mean that, or they mean your last boyfriend or your last partner?
No, but then it's only when you get to the point that's why does this always happen to me in a relationship? Why do I always seem to find a guy that's commitment phobic? Like sometimes you might find a guy that's always a commitment phobic. But why do I keep meeting that same type of guy? Because you're attracting them. So it's the same pattern sometimes.
And choosing them too, right?
And choosing them, yeah. So it's that same type of person that you keep choosing. And then there's also that thing whereby you've had such a bad relationship. I know sometimes in our conversations, someone's had such a bad relationship that when they meet the Mr. Nice Guy, the one that's going to actually give them what they've been asking for, they don't even recognize it. Because the other guys have been treating them so badly that when it comes to Mr. Nice Guy, it's difficult to even see him. You now don't recognize him because he's too nice. There must be something else there. Why is he too nice? And then
maybe I need to look in his phone. What's he hiding?
Yes, it's like there must be something else going
on. Maybe I should check who's his friend.
Yes.
Let me see if he's still friends with her on Facebook or on Insta. Has he liked any of her pictures? Kind of breeds that kind of
then you
the culture of surveillance. I call it the culture of surveillance, but it's really that person's insecurity. But
yes, that's now being portrayed, and it's easy. And I know, like I said from conversations I've got my friends as well, that sometimes you can have someone who was secure, and then when they start losing themselves, they then find themselves feeling insecure. Whereby before they were secure in themselves, they knew what they wanted, but because they've now lost themselves, they no longer feel that security. But no, yeah, I'm good. I know he ain't going nowhere, but then that surveillance kind of comes in because I checking forward. Now you're going out surveillance, and you're like, but I was never like that though. Why have I suddenly become like this? And sometimes so you've got to check yourself and go, what's going on? And then it's about doing the work on yourself sometimes. So sometimes you may have to step back, even if you're in a relationship, and just step back and go, okay, I need to do the work on myself, because we all bring baggage into relationships.
Yeah, we're human, right? And so we're not blank sheets of paper that turn up as adults meeting a new person that, where do you come from? I come from blank town, blank history, and blank opinions. I like what you like. I'm into it's not coming to America when Eddie Murphy was meeting those potential wives. Whatever you like, I like. Like, no, people come with their own perspective, opinions, prejudices, bias, right? Based on experience.
Exactly.
And that's a worldview and whatever the case may be.
And that's exactly so. And then so you've got to go through those bags and start getting rid of some of them. You may not know how many bags you're carrying until you get into a relationship. And sometimes your partner will trigger you. Sometimes you get triggered, and you don't even know that this was something you held from when you were young, and this person's now pushed that button. Because only a partner that can trigger you to a point where you're like, what happened? What's going on? You have to do that work. So it's really important that when you get into a relationship, I mean, it's better to do it before you get to a relationship. So if you break up with someone, it's said that you should have at least a year on your own.
Some people will find that impossible because the fear of being alone is kind of like powerful.
Yes.
They don't necessarily like end relationships, have a gap, work on themselves, as you said, and then start a new relationship or pursue marriage or whatever their goal.
Some people go straight in.
Some people kind of like, they don't like leave a relationship and start a new one. They kind of merge into
merge the two together.
Got,
you know, like
the back burner, the back burner syndrome.
Yes.
So the one relationship is dead, but they just haven't left. And then they, like line up other potentials and other set the stalls out, and then they just fade like in the old days, the record used to finish.
Yes, and then fade it out.
Take that off and put on. It was a one deck system back in the day. If you're old enough to know that, and then start that. It's a new record, but there was an interval.
And then
but now in that area, so record just you think you're listening to one record, and then it's just merged into a new beat, basically.
And the thing with that is, again, I've seen where it explodes because the person that you haven't actually finished it with, you haven't communicated that you've finished, they're still hoping and trying to make it work. Still trying to, why is he not calling me? What's going on? And no, she's still trying to make it work, or he or she, whoever. They're still trying to.
Maybe men are guilty of that, or maybe more men are guilty.
Yeah, and so the woman's there, and he hasn't really communicated that he's ending it. And then she's talking. You've had it where like, can you go and talk to him for me, please? I want to know what's going on. Then it's suddenly like, oh, I'm still with a new girl. Where he's like, oh, she's not my girlfriend, she's just a friend, because he now hasn't finished it, so feeling, just a friend, but you've moved on, but you haven't told her that you've moved on, and then you're keeping her in that place just in case, and that cycle keeps continuing, and then it happens again. And so relationships are complex. So you are supposed to, then you've got the rebound, because you don't want to be alone. So the person ain't right for you. Mm-hmm. They don't even tick any of the boxes, but like you said, it's like, I need to be in a relationship. This person seems nice. Let's see how it goes. Mm-hmm. But then I guess what happens is when you go in a rebound relationship and you're over and you're pleasing that person too much, and you're like, I didn't even like you in the first place. And now look, I've lost myself even more. So the resentment's even worse now because you didn't even like the person as much as you wanted to like them, but you kind of forced yourself to like them.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I look at those situations like maybe it's more about a need that sometimes people end relationships and that can be extremely painful. Some people think, oh, I haven't been married in a formal sense, so they think that it means that marriage is one thing, and when marriages end, it's like the statistics say it's like somebody dying and it's like a bereavement and there's this whole ending. But if two people have not been married but they've lived together or been in some kind of committed relationship that was at least supposed to be monogamous, whether it was or not. But if they've been in that kind of connection, 2 years, 5 years, come on, when things don't work out, there's going to be a certain grieving. There's going to be a certain level of pain that people will experience, right? And so sometimes that can leave individuals feeling vulnerable. And so that's where I believe the rebound phenomenon kind of comes into play, where the other person, you see somebody break up, and very shortly after, they kind of head over heels with somebody else. The guy or the woman, the new woman or the new guy, depending on if it's a man or woman that's just broke up. It's not that the other person, anything's wrong with that person, but you just look from the outside and think, what's that? What's the connection there? Because they just don't look like they match or something like this. And she just seems so enthusiastic. Oh, my man's coming in, my man, and a certain type of, and it's almost like a defense mechanism at play to to fill that space. And then, as you said, sometimes they're playing crash and burns, but you can't always. In fact, it's very rare that you can kind of preach to people. People have to be in a space to be receptive, because even somebody might come to you for advice. And when you lay that, I don't know if you've ever given advice before, because people come, hey, just lay it to me straight. What's going on? That's what's good. I want just tell me what you think is true. And when you tell the person what's good, they still go back and do exactly what they came in wanting to do. But maybe they came for you for a rubber. They maybe should have said, I need a rubber stamp. I need you to agree with what I want to do, because I've got this kind of action. That would be more genuine, I've been requested advice, or in a circle of guys, or a couple of guys. One was going through an issue with his woman, and he was going to extreme lengths to pursue maybe the accuracy of her stories, because he had some doubt about her telling the truth. Like maybe she's seen somebody else, or whatever the case may be. But he went to such extreme lengths. It was like if this relationship is doing that to you, it's better to just tap out, man. Like, what are you looking for? What are you hoping to find? Like, you're in bad shape. if you can't be secure and just resolve that, it'd be best to tap out. It didn't really end pretty, but the point is that like people, they don't maybe want advice as much as they just want you to, like I said, kind of agree with it. Yeah, and that sometimes can strain friendships.
And it can do, and sometimes, even if you're telling someone that, because sometimes you get told, since you've been with this person, you've changed as a person. So it's not like you've changed. It's just like I said, it's like you stop being yourself because you think maybe you're comparing yourself to the ex as well. And maybe that's why they broke up, because I was too much like the ex, so then you'd be like this. Or, you know, if I'm out too much, maybe he won't like me being out so much. If I don't go out so much, maybe if I'm stay at home too much, maybe he won't like the fact I stay at home so much. So sometimes it's that expectation of what you think the other person wants. It's what you think you should be like without really going, no, but this person met me when I was like this. So let me just be me. But sometimes I guess some people don't like themselves so much so they don't want to be them. So again,
that's deep. That's deep.
People don't like themselves. They don't like themselves. So if they don't like themselves, then it's going to be hard for them to be in a relationship and be themselves. Like telling someone to be yourself is a hard thing because some people don't know who they are.
They might say, "Who the hell are you talking? Who the hell is that?"
Yeah. Who am I? I don't know. And you have to keep asking yourself, "Who am I?" Like
be yourself, man. Who that? Who that?
Yeah, and some people don't know because for so long they've been somebody else or other people's expectations of who they think they should be. That to face yourself and go, this is who I'm really like, and not just face the nice stuff about you. It's the stuff that you don't like and the bits of yourself that no one else sees. You got to get comfortable and get to that liking yourself where you're
the imperfections, accepting the shadow self, the normal, regular, you know what I mean, the shadow side, the other side, the underbelly, that side as well, because it's all part of you. It's all part of you,
and you've got to accept that is who you are and embrace all of that. But that journey is hard because once you start that journey, because I remember one time looking in the mirror, like, who are you? I don't know who you are. I don't even like this version. I actually didn't like the version of myself. I remember looking in the mirror and going, I actually had a conversation like, I don't even like this version of myself. Like, bring back the old one. I don't know who you are, but you need to go to sleep right now. And it was that conversation. I was like, okay. When I realized I had stopped, because I lost myself in a relationship, and I was like, I don't like who I've become. I had become somebody I never wanted to be like, and I ended up being someone that, you know, so I was like, who are you? Who are you? Come back. And then I had to start that journey of finding myself and rediscovering myself. And that's how I got into NLP, which was about finding me again and the journey down. But it's a hard journey because we're like onions. There's so many layers, and you just unpeel the first layer, and that ain't nothing. You ain't even touch the surface. You're just unpeeling layer after layer, and you don't even get to the core. And then you finding it's really hard as well. And a lot of people give up at that stage because to do the work on yourself is ongoing. It's never stopped, but it gets to a point where it's hard. And it's like, should I continue? Well, I think I find myself, I don't do anymore. No, you got to keep going, push through the difficulties.
No, I mean, what you kind of outlined is pretty brave, a pretty bold, you know, like, level of introspection that you had come to, and like you know, like acknowledgement and actually going on that journey. And it's funny you use that metaphor about the onion because
no, it is
a technique that is used in psychotherapy sometimes when exploring issues with clients. And I just mentioned the onion, people describing themselves, and they might like superficial things. I'm from this background, this income, or you know, and then who's that below? You know, I come from this, you know, and but as you start to peel off layers, people start to, it doesn't flow because they have to start actually thinking below that level, what else is going on, and it's maybe the awareness that as they discover what they as they peel it back and they discover there's a level of self-filtering because it's like, I'm not so keen about what's that next layer down. Let me kind of work with that. But it's psychotherapy. The thing is always to get the person to speak it out. The most important thing is to get them thinking about it. So while they might say, you ask them a question and they say, I don't know. But yeah, sometimes they do know. And that's all right.
You don't want to admit it. You don't admit it because
but they know that now you brought it into the room. They'll be thinking about it. Yeah, and they'll process that when they leave after the 50 minutes. They'll process that, and that's a big part of the work.
I mean,
in itself.
I mean, I called when I lost myself. I called myself. I felt like a taxi with my lights out. So that's how I felt I was going through life, like a taxi with my lights out. Like I was just miserable. I was just like unhappy. And I was like, this isn't what life is going to be, because the drudgery of life just started, and you just think there's more to life than this. And so you have to keep asking those questions and go, why is my lights gone out? why is it gone out? If your light has gone out, you need to ask yourself the question, how do I turn the lights back on?
That's a powerful metaphor, man. You're definitely an NLP practitioner.
You've got to put the light back on, because you're walking through life and you're just like, you know, things doesn't seem the same. You're going to your 9 to 5 and it just feels like the day to day you're just paying bills, you're just doing it. You're like, this is not what you came on life to do. Yes, you're
not on earth just to be Groundhog Day, innit? It's supposed to sparkle some kind of...
Yes. No, sparkle. Bring back the sparkle. So that was my journey. I had to be like, I don't like you right now. And I had to say that to myself. I don't like you right now. Like, I don't like this version of myself. I look in the mirror every day and like, I don't like you. Go to sleep. Bring back the old version. And then I had the opportunity to get into coaching. So it was a youth program at risk. And it was coaching young people that had been excluded from school, or at risk of excluded from school. And we had to do the same training as the young people. It was the most powerful training I ever had, because it was questions. Because the power of questions, it was just questions. Why are you like this? It was just questions and questions. So the point I was like, oh, I'm like this. Oh, because we had to be able to coach the young people by doing as we did, not as we said. Because it's easy to tell people to do things, but are you willing to take that bitter pill? You're telling someone to take that pill. Are you going to take that pill as well? If not, don't tell them to do it. You know, if you're giving advice, you've got to be willing to take the advice as well. You know,
it's like when you go to see a GP and they're obese and they're saying that, you know, it'd be good to eat more salads. Make sure you get your 9 a day, you know, your 7 a day, or 5, at least 5 a day in terms of vegetables. Have you ever even seen a vegetable in the last few years?
Or that personal trainer that, you know, ain't even really training, but he's going to tell you the personal trainer, but you're like, hey, hold on a minute here. Or that relationship coach whose relationships are always bad, and you're just like, come on, like, you got to be authentic in what you're going to do. So in that training, I had to kind of start facing myself. So that's how I got into NLP. And then I said it was the layers, and I was like, wow. And it felt like I was getting worse as I started it. So when you start this journey, people, you will get worse. It's not that you get worse. It's just that your eyes are open to yourself. Your eyes become open, and you start seeing things that you never saw, that you've been hiding, and you're going, oh my goodness, this feels horrible. And it feels really horrible, but you got to push through that pain and that discomfort, because once you get to the other side, once your relationship with yourself becomes better, your relationship with everybody else becomes better. Because until you fix the relationship with yourself, you can't have a good relationship with anybody else. You can't. You just can't. You just can't have good relationship with other people if your relationship with yourself is bad.
Foundational.
It's a foundation. You reflect back, because you're going to reflect back to other people what you're thinking about yourself. So if you're always down on yourself, if you're always feeling bad, if you don't treat yourself well, you will invite other people to treat you badly. Because you're not.
The world becomes a reflection of your inner self, isn't it? That's the world that you
see. That's exactly. So even if you're in a relationship, you can still do the work. You just have to be committed to doing the work. Sometimes it's not about the other person. Because if you separate the other person and put them to the side and say, I kind of go that at the end of your life, when you've got to meet your creator, whoever you believe in, he's going to go, what did you do? Yeah, but it was because of, no. What did you do? Yeah, but you see, they used to, no. What did you do? You've got to say, what did you do? Just because someone else pushes your buttons, do you need to push their buttons back?
That's really important. I really appreciate you actually bringing that into the conversation, because like, we live in an era of, I think, like, people where it's common for us to not, for whatever reason, whatever's going on in our culture, I can't articulate it right now, but there's something in our culture. When I mean our culture, I don't mean black, I mean culture, the society, right? Where everything is, he said, and because she did, and because it was my mum, and because it was my relationship, my dad wasn't there, and the world don't care about that. The world just knows that you've got a certain level of free will that you need to exercise in your best interest, and know the strangers in the world that not going to be playing a mini violin for you to understand you and why you are this. You need to be the best version of yourself, and that means challenging yourself and using your free will. But it's a very hard thing to kind of accept that, you know, it's my responsibility.
And that is a part of when you start working yourself, is once you get past the uncomfortableness, you start to realize that everything is my responsibility. How I am right now is it's hard to kind of hear when you go, my life is because of the choices that I made. Oh no. And then it's that kind of responsibility.
That's damn frightening, especially if you're someone you don't want to be. That's scary. It would be good to be out my mom, and it was my mom, and it was my dad, and it was my. That's kind of like convenient. Even I'm not saying those things don't impact, but regardless, it's still up to you. Even if those things happen, everybody's got a horror story. Yes, got a horror story. But within saying that, it won't change until you implement what you need to implement in your life.
Exactly. I remember having a coach, and she gave me one of the most powerful exercises that I'm going to share with viewers. And she said to me, I want you to write letters to your parents and write a letter to them. Everything you want to say to them, pour it all out, just as I'm a writer. So that's why she gave it to me, I guess. But she was like, pour it all out, write everything you want to say. And surprisingly, there were things I thought about when I was 8. That, you know, when you ask for something and you get told, no, you can't have it. That I held it, like, I'd hold it as a grudge. You know, so you start to, and I was like, wow. So I wrote everything out, and it was like a relief. Because suddenly I was like, oh, I've been holding on to things that, you know, siblings, you know, things you hold on about your siblings, your aunts, your uncles. So sometimes you've got so many deep-rooted bitterness and grudges that you're holding against people that have done stuff to you, that when someone else pushes that same button, you react the same way to them.
Well, they hit that same wound.
Yeah, they hit that same wound, and you're just like, you know, and you're like, you react the same way you would have done. So you've got to be so looking inwardly that you've got to go, okay, that maybe was that a response that person needed? Was I just overreacting because they just, like say, they touched that wound now and it's like salt in the wound? It hurts.
They call that, and sometimes they call that transference in therapy, where, you know, the person reacts, but really I was at war. It wasn't the individual that I knew in my life. It's kind of like that triggered a parent, a punitive parent, or that triggered a kind of teacher archetype that whoever it was, I used to feel that would put me down, or it was a soft spot.
And that is, and it's hard because
they call it transference.
Because, like, when my grandma, when I remember speaking to her before she passed away, and she was saying, I think, Grandma, what's your secret to long life? Because, you know, she lived in 96. I just go, you just got to love people. Grandma, what do you mean love people? She goes, you have to love people. No matter how hard it is to love them, you've still got to love them. People are hard to love, but you've got to love people. And I witnessed, and I look back and saw how she. So again, you've got to find that role model person that knows how to love people and model that behavior, because they will show you how to do it. So you have to seek that person out, whether it's in your family, in someone else's family, in a mentor, whoever. You've got to find that person that knows how to love people and love them for who they are, not for who they think they should be. Because sometimes we have, especially I think it's women more than men though, when you meet a new partner, you fall in love with the potential of who you think they can be, not of who they are. So that expectation of thinking, oh, he's going to be so amazing, he's going to be like this. You know, you put him in the Premier League, yeah? But he's right now playing Sunday Division. But you want him as a Premier League player. But he's only playing Sunday League football. Yeah,
he might be Championship, but maybe not Champions League right now. But
yeah, but then you've met him at his Champions League or whatever. But then you're thinking, yeah, he's a Premier League, but he never made it to Premier League because he's not ready to make that.
But you know what might be kind of like interplaying with that as well is that people sometimes there's a real self and then there's a kind of ideal self. So sometimes people project their ideal self. Not that they're being insecure, but they're generally. That person they would like to be is what they kind of like emanate.
Exactly, and sometimes you can fall in love with the ideal self. So the expectation is this person is like this, but the reality of who you have can sometimes cause that disconnect in relationship as well, because you're thinking, because I've like in our when I've had given advice, you're like, yeah, but you thought he was like this, but this is who he is. You've got to deal with him as you see him, as you've got him in front of you. You can't deal with him as you want him to be, because he ain't there yet. He's still going on that growth journey.
You might want to work with him to get there, but you can't demand that of him. You can't demand that.
Yeah, you can't demand that.
Or her, because maybe men project stuff onto women as well. And they say, oh, she's a saint. She, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, and then they get to find out, well, actually, she's human, like, with, faults
Yes,
and foibles
and
that
that's
most human beings, right? And then it's like she's insincere, or no, you projected that person.
or you put a person on such a high pedestal. You put them on such a high pedestal that when they fall off, it's like, oh, they are human and they've got, you know what I mean? But you put them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
So now the person's not, they've got their problems as well. So now you have to deal with that expectation, that unrealistic expectation of this person being who you think they should be rather than who they actually are. And then again, it's forgiveness, because my grandma again was a lot about, you've got to be willing to forgive other people.
Wow, I think we've lost a little connection there.
Stuff.
Oh, you ducked out for a minute.
I ducked out, sorry.
I'm going to attempt to summarize what I heard you say before as well, tie it in. That the forgiveness is, to me, sounds like that level of letting go, of letting things go. So that, you talked about that the angst about, when you people push your buttons, many things from early childhood or from years ago or siblings or whatever it is. You have to, as they say in CBT, tie it, put it all in a basket and tie a red balloon to it and just visualize that floating away or dropping it into a lake and but let it go for your own good.
You have to, and it is for your own good. It isn't about the other person. I mean, you don't even have to speak to the person again. You don't even have to have anything to do with them. But you've got to release yourself from that, because if you're holding on to so much grudges and so much bitterness, it starts affecting your health. It starts affecting your well-being. It starts affecting how you see people. It starts affecting how you think life is, and then that's baggage, and then you're adding more baggage as you go through. You're adding more baggage, so now your baggage is heavy. I remember seeing one bag lady once going on the bus, and Erica Badu's song came into my head.
I was thinking of that, but
it came into my head, and I was like, yeah, and I was just like, look at this bag lady. Like you can see her bags though, but we're carrying the same amount of bags, but we can't see it because the woman, she had to get on the bus. It took her 10 minutes to get on the bus because of the amount of bags she had. She had to keep going back and putting it on. And then I thought, that's like us though. We don't see those bags. But every time we go someplace, we've got to just carry each bag.
And picking up more stuff. If we're not careful,
picking up
more stuff as we go along. I'm aware of the time. I'm aware of the time. And I wanted to maybe, just before we close out, like give you a chance to talk a little bit about... those things about a woman keeping, or people, but it might pertain more to women. How to regain yourself in the relationship, or in other words, you don't have to choose one or the other, but having your cake and eating it too.
Okay, so the first thing is you've got to recognize you've lost yourself. You've got to recognize. You've got to do some thinking and go to yourself. Am I who I want to be right now? Am I being my best self? Am I really being my best self? So you've got to ask yourself those questions for yourself and seek the answers. Don't go to other people. You've got to then realize that you aren't who you want to be. You aren't your ideal self, your best self. So once you've made that decision, so it's a decision you've got to make. I need to change.
Owning that.
Owning that you are not where you want to be. Owning that maybe you're not how you want to be. Owning that you're not doing what you need to be doing. Just own it. So yeah,
and not projecting it onto the other person. Don't
project the other person. It's you.
Or it's based on he's a narcissist. No.
Just deal with yourself. Deal with yourself. So okay, now I realize I don't like myself. I'm not myself. I'm not doing what I need to do. Okay, what do I need to do? Then this is where you do your research. This is where you start to go find the best program for you. Because nothing's going to work for you. NLP worked for me, but it may not work for somebody else. You might need to go and see a therapist. You might go and need to see a counselor. So you need to go and find out what is going to be the best for you. Do what works for you. There's so much advice out there. I mean, sometimes you go on Instagram and everyone's giving advice. Everybody's a therapist. Everybody's giving advice. But it doesn't mean it's good for you. You've got to know. You've got to go with what's going to work for you. Know how you're going to be able to play it, and then you've got to be committed to the journey. going hard, like you know, like when you're gonna do a dive from the top, you're diving into it. I'm not trying to go, no.
Very important. So it might not be all sweet and it might not be all raw. It might be a bit rocky, but you need to stay the course.
It's gonna be rocky. It's going to be rocky. It's going to be messy. You're gonna find out bits about yourself you're not gonna like. You're still gonna have problems. It's gonna feel like it's worse. It's going to be uncomfortable. But you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you can only be your best self by. Okay, so I'll give an example, like trees. Do you know trees have a cycle? That trees have to be pruned. They have to be cut back. They have to cut off the dead and diseased bits of a tree for a tree to survive. That's what we have to do as well. We have to be pruned. We have to have our disease and dead bits cut off from us. Those bits that are no longer serving us, in order for us to grow and grow and grow even better, to become the best version of ourselves. So yeah, get uncomfortable with the discomfort, because it will be. It will be horrible. But you get your support. So get your support network. Find those people that will carry you through this time. Who those people that will speak positivity to you. Find those people that bring sunshine into your life. Those people that are always joyful. Find those positive people, those joyful people, those things that make you happy. You're going to need those things around you.
Wow.
You're going to need it. That's what you're going to need. And then go back to creative expression you did when you was 10 years old or 5 years old. What did you love to do when you was 5? Was it painting? Was it drawing? Was it dancing? Was it riding a bike? Was it rolling in the dirt? What did you love to do at your 3-year age? What was that thing you loved to do?
Liberate the inner child. Liberate the inner child.
Yeah, liberate your inner child. Find the inner child and let them go do what they need to do. Whether that's go painting, whether that's swimming, whatever it is that you love to do before the adult told you to stop doing it. Go back and start doing it. Because when you start doing the things you loved as a child, you start to discover the things you actually wanted to do. The things. Because I remember at 11, I said I wanted to dance, write, and DJ. That's all I wanted to do. All these other things I started doing, I was like, you didn't want to be working in an office. Who told you? When did you think about working in an office? That wasn't your life. I actually do those 3 things now. I actually look up and down and go, bro, I actually do them. Cool. They may not pay all my bills right now, but I'm actually doing them. Because I made a commitment to my inner child that I was going to do the things that I love to do. And don't lose your curiosity. You know, children are curious. As adults, you've got to be in awe of life. Just be curious. What can life offer me? What can I do? Be curious. Be an explorer. Be an adventurer. I mean, I call my life experimenting, exploring, and having fun. Experiment, explore, have fun. You'll find out things about yourself you never knew. You never knew you could do. So you've got to enjoy life. You've got to fall in love with life, so you can fall in love with yourself.
I like that.
When you fall in love with life and what life has to offer, what life has to give, you will fall in love with yourself and think positively. Your brain does not have room for negative and positive. Make room for one. And if you're going to choose one, choose the more positive. You know, look on the sunny side of the road. You know, look for the sun in everything. Don't focus on negative. And even the negativity is always going to be there, but you don't have to focus on it. You don't have to go, yes, take it in. Like you watch what you eat. Watch what you think, what you hear, what you deal with, what energy you're around you. You still got to watch that as well. It's not just about watching what you eat. You've got to watch what you put yourself in. So yeah, it's a journey, but find a support network. Talk it out, dance it out, do what you got to do, but commit to yourself. Commit to being the best relationship. What type of friend do you want to be? What type of partner do you want to be? What type of parent do you want to be? You be that person. So when you find the other person, you mirror it back to each other. So how do you want to be? How do you want to be treated? I mean, I'm a big believer in that. Treat others how you expect to be treated. If you're not going to treat someone badly, if you don't want to be treated badly, why are you going to treat someone else badly? Yes, they may have treated you badly. Yes, that might have been so. Walk away from it. Be the bigger person. Be the bigger person. Don't stoop to the level. You know, if they go low, you need to go low with them. No, walk away.
When they go low, we go high.
Go high. Yes, so be the person.
This has been awesome. This has been absolutely awesome.
Yes. So that's my thing. So just be learning, have fun with life. No, enjoy life. Just
unfortunately, we've run out of film reel, as they say. But that was such an awesome film that I don't think I'm going to even try to paraphrase that into 2 sentences. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun, and I want to say to you, thank you for your time.
Thank you as well.
You got to come by. You got to come by the studio again, and we got.
Yes, indeed. And then you got to come by our studio as well. You know, we've got to share.
So you know, I'm going to come by and have some tea.
In the front room. Have some tea in the front room. Some chai tea.
No, definitely. But it's been the time gone really quick. But I really appreciate what you brought to the conversation, and I want to thank all you viewers for staying with us for the duration of It Takes Two, and we hope to catch you next time for another edition. Until then, stay safe. Thanks. Bye.